Well, welcome to the immutable fortress, to the Emerald City, where the law of the land is code and the grass is always greener. It's good to have Sam of Rados from the planet Saturn.
There you go. Glad to be here.
Yeah, man. So is Rados a moon of Saturn? What's the connection?
No, it's not a moon. That would make more sense. That would be easier. Originally, when the project was launching, we had quite a few brands, and it kind of got a bit complicated for everyone to follow them. So we kind of put it all under Saturn Network. But originally, Rados was a cryptocurrency blog that we were using to kind of talk about our philosophy and kind of document what we were doing. And so then now we just kind of refer to everything as Saturn Network.
Okay, so there's history here, there's a group of people, there's a philosophy.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we've been around, I would say. I mean, I've been connected to the project for about a year now, but before that, the founders were working on it. Neuron and Cassini, they were working on it for a year before that. So we've definitely been in the space for, I would say, around 2 years, which is, I think, when you come from kind of looking at it as an anonymous team, it's very important to show that we've been around and that releases are coming out on a consistent level.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the biggest challenges, especially from an anonymous team. One of the things I'd like to learn more about is kind of the values Saturn embodies. What brought you guys together?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think a lot of people just see Saturn Network as a decentralized exchange that's currently operating on Ethereum and Ethereum Classic. But I mean, how we kind of look at what we're doing is that we're creating essential tools and infrastructure that will help anyone at kind of any level access cryptocurrency and access, the decentralized ecosystem and work with blockchain and continue to grow. So, and reach a kind of wider audience. We just want to make it much easier for people to interact and have access to this sort of, world of dApps and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I agree with the overall sentiment that there needs to be more tools, and we need to make it easier for new users to access the world of blockchain and crypto. Yeah. What was the reasoning behind the focus on Ethereum and Ethereum Classic? What do you see being a dApp that works in both worlds? How do you perceive them differently?
I mean, the reason we kind of decided to be multi-chain very early on from the stage of the project, and I think that's kind of more, to me, it was very strange when I started to look at the industry that businesses just focus on one blockchain. Because if you think of it more in a traditional sense, if you have your store or your restaurant or bar or anything, once you're operating well in one city, you're going to look to expand. So, it never really made sense to me why some businesses just want to push one blockchain, that we're the best, here's that. I feel like if you really want cryptocurrency to work and have a wider adoption, then it's important to kind of make to work together to show that, that there's interpolability between two chains, and make it kind of easier for cross-chain transactions and that sort of thing. And I mean, if we're honest, I think the reason we started with Ethereum is because that's where all the developers are. That's where there's a lot of resources around smart contracts. That's where there's already a lot of tools to work with. And then Ethereum Classic, I think it just kind of, it's more in touch with our philosophy on how we see things, in the sense that it's immutable, and we're very for kind of operating in a censorship-free environment, and in a way that would be deemed kind of unstoppable. So I think, yeah, Ethereum Classic just kind of rang truer to kind of our philosophies as how we saw this kind of world of the kind of the modern finances, how that should evolve.
The value is a great place to focus on. I think that from most chains, Ethereum Classic has done a great job of firmly setting out what those values are and reading.
Yeah.
So, I understand that allure. And now today, where do you see your focus? I know that Saturn has launched the HODL program. Maybe you want to talk about some of the programs and kind of what your next steps are.
Yeah, I mean, as it stands, we're kind of pushing, I would say, a much more educational front at the moment, because we've also, if anyone who's kind of read our original white paper, one of the things that we felt was important was if you want these markets that are running 24/7, but that are much different than a traditional stock market that's 9 to 5 and that sort of thing. These crypto, it never sleeps. So there's a big emphasis on kind of running trading bots, and teaching people how they can launch their own trading bots. And that way, in a kind of decentralized market, that's very kind of an efficient way to make sure that the kind of the spread of the price, that sort of thing, between assets stays tight, as you call it. Like a tight market is normally perceived as being more healthy. And so there's a front that at the moment we're kind of trying to get people more involved and wanting to create their own strategies and putting them into their own trading bots. So it's kind of I'd say we're trying to focus on that sort of educational content right now. And that's why we've kind of launched this HODL program, where we've set certain milestones for our releases. And once we hit those milestones, then we'll release more tools and more kind of reviews of the source code and that sort of thing, to help kind of hopefully make more interest in creating your own tools. Because I think one of in the way we've kind of set up the project is that it's a decentralized autonomous organization, so Saturn DAO. It's shared infrastructure, shared ownership. So we want anyone who kind of holds tokens, or any developer should be able to come in and provide value to the ecosystem. And even if you're not a developer, you should be able to kind of pick something up, read through it, understand what it's doing, and be able to make sure it's actually doing kind of what we say it is, that sort of thing.
Yeah, what's interesting is the focus on bots. We also had a project in our previous cohort, Kryzen, that was also working on algorithmic trading bots. It's interesting. Yeah. Bots are needed in this kind of trading sphere because of the 24/7 nature of things. Yeah. But either way, trading, we see even in equities that algorithms are the future. So it's cool that, the tools are being made that way people have more of a competitive chance as well.
Yeah, because that's also want to kind of to touch on that again, is one reason we want to make it kind of very easy to launch your own tools is because a problem you find on like a centralized platform where like Binance or Coinbase or something, you don't know if potentially they're running their own trading bots with their API, and then you're kind of at a disadvantage because if you set it up, it's going to be running a little bit slower than them, which is a big problem if it comes down to it, if there's a lot of trading happening in a matter of minutes.
Yeah, and I can imagine when you have to incorporate the gas fees for confirmation. So the bot, like a bot in traditional equities, doesn't need to think about the trading.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, as it stands, the ones that we have released, they kind of, they do it order by order. So they wait until a transaction's confirmed on the chain, and then it looks at proceeding from there. So it's kind of step by step. So it is a bit, I mean, trading on a decentralized platform is always going to be a little bit slower than a centralized platform. But for us, it's that extra kind of safety, that you're in control of your funds, that you don't give it up. It vastly outweighs any kind of, seconds, or, like if I have to wait 10 minutes for my trade to go through, so be it. At least I know my funds are safe.
Yeah, that philosophical difference is becoming more pronounced, where people understand what it is to be decentralized ownership, etc. Yep. So being someone that's building on a public chain, what's it like interacting with some of the stakeholders in Ethereum and Ethereum Classic, as far as, conversation around what's being developed and what you need, what tools you need to better develop your vision?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things, I wouldn't say that we struggle with, but is that, a DAO is a kind of, it's kind of very forward thinking. There's not really many businesses operating in this sense. And I feel like a lot of people have kind of came on board. They see the vision. They're excited about it. They're happy to be a part of it. But one thing that people are kind of realizing is that these things do take time to build, and it's kind of a whole new process. So there's a lot of learning and a lot of kind of finding new ways to do things. Whereas, because in a traditional business, you'll have someone kind of leading the way. Whereas here, it's kind of everyone's working together as a collective towards the same goal, but we might all be going in kind of different ways. So sometimes you have little factions doing this and doing that. So I think some people do get a little bit frustrated to see things aren't moving as quick as they may have hoped. But I think the people that see the value in this sort of system and the long-term kind of that it's always going to be here sort of thing, no matter what. I think that's something that really excites people.
Yeah, the culture of contribution is culture of contribution. This idea that the people, everybody that's working in this ecosystem is giving.
Yeah.
I think it's pronounced in decentralized applications in blockchain. So, I understand that sometimes not everybody's giving in the same way. The vision is somewhat the same, but we're not always in agreement on how to get there. But yeah. I want to drill in further on how it is to interact with the core devs of the chains you're building on. In other words, I know more about Ethereum Classic than I do Ethereum, so we'll focus on that one more.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there, like right now, we're discussing new changes that are going to happen in Atlantis, the hard fork. There are new ECIPs being introduced every day. Are you involved in that process at all? Are there certain ECIPs that you're very excited about, changes that you don't want to see? Right.
I mean, I would say from our kind of the core developers that work on Saturn protocol, they kind of just roll with it. So if a change happens, so be it. We'll adapt and we'll make sure that Saturn network keeps running smoothly and make sure that our users keep getting the service that they love. But a lot of our community members are more active in, I would say, the day-to-day kind of these hard forks and that sort of thing. I would say, I don't know. I mean, I've only recently started idling on all the kind of Ethereum Classic discords and started to be kind of trying to read more of these conversations. And I would say from a developer standpoint, it seems like a lot of these changes are going to help use the tools that already exist on Ethereum to continue developing dApps and that sort of thing and bringing things over to Ethereum Classic. But I'd say there is a kind of voice. There have been some concerns from some of our community members saying around the kind of gas limit changes, and they're, I don't know, kind of like kind of wondering why ETC should be moving towards mirroring Ethereum, and shouldn't it kind of go on its own path. So, I mean, those are some concerns some of our community have raised, but I'm not really sure how many of them actually kind of will speak up and say something into, I don't know, to Ethereum Classic developers.
Yeah, well, there's one thing I know for sure. It's that it's welcomed, it's encouraged.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
I think that's the only way we're going to see benefits from the philosophical community side, right? Where, you know, it's
right.
great that we all have the same values, but if we're not working together to make things happen faster, you know, it doesn't really give that extra power that it could unlock. So, you know, I do want to invite you and the community to speak up about some of these concerns. You know, it's the first time I've heard a concern about the gas limit, so that's great. You know, that's where conversation comes from.
Yeah.
I think that just like we need to be talented at building new things, we need to be talented at building conversations.
Yeah. I mean, I think the concern around the gas limit is kind of like, because from my understanding, if you limit the gas limit, then the blockchain size grows at a slower pace. I don't know, I'm not exactly a developer myself, but I think some of the concern was, well, you know, at the end of the day, there's not that much usage happening on the blockchain as it stands on Ethereum Classic. So do we really need to implement these changes at this moment, or is it something that should be discussed in the future? That's something that some of our members have raised.
Does ever raise around 51% attack?
Right. Sorry?
Does your community ever bring up the issue of the 51% attack, and any concerns there on your side?
I mean, I wouldn't say, not really necessarily. I think it's kind of something that can happen, you know, on most blockchains. I think that it's just as the
really decentralized. It's actually decentralized.
There you go. So, I mean, when it was happening, our kind of Telegram chat was like going like, oh, let's all rent rigs. We should be protecting the chain, you know. That was kind of how they reacted. But I think, you know, it's like you said, it's because it's actually decentralized, and as the adoption grows and there's more kind of people mining on the chain, those sort of attacks, from my understanding, it just becomes harder anyways to do. So there you go.
Well, I have the same viewpoint on this. So on wrapping up, I want to have some next steps for our viewers to get more involved in Saturn. So, you know, what are the 3 things that people should do today to kind of get more involved with the product and the community?
I mean, I definitely, well, if you haven't already, go have a look at the actual exchange, Saturn.network. I personally, feel that just from a UI point of view, our implementation of a decentralized exchange is much easier to actually use. I don't know how many people trade on IDEX and EtherDelta and that sort of thing, and when I open those sort of interfaces, I just get a bit confused. So from a user perspective, I feel like you should definitely go take a look, because, you know, it's wallet to wallet trading, happens in one transaction, and is especially great to do it on Ethereum Classic because most tokens prefer ERC-223, which makes our job much easier. It actually allows you to actually make the trade in one transaction immediately, whereas a lot of ERC-20 tokens on Ethereum, you have to submit an approved transaction and then you're allowed to trade. So That's why one reason I'd much prefer the ERC-22 free standard. And so yeah, have a look on our exchange, and also, I mean, there's a list of about 84 assets. I want to say there's about 84 Ethereum Classic tokens, and there's not really that much. I would say probably not many people actually know that they exist. So if you're a supporter of Ethereum Classic, I would have a look at those and start sharing those projects. I mean, to mention a few, there's Onyx, which is a proof of stake token that operates on Ethereum Classic. So that could be very interesting. And there's also, there's a Bitcoin Classic, which is a mintable token. You can mine a token on the chain. There's a token called Intro, which is focusing on providing video kind of intros for different cryptocurrency projects. So I would say there's a lot of kind of projects that are happening that not too many people know about, and that would be great for users to start sharing those sort of individual independent projects that are growing on Ethereum Classic.
Excellent. So we'll share the link below. Also, I want to let everybody know Saturn has a very vibrant community. So I'll also include the Telegram and Discord link in the details. I know that both Sam and Neuron, and they've got a whole clan of very vocal and colorful characters.
Yep. I mean, anyone can come join our Telegram, join and start talking about really whatever they want. Just be prepared to defend your arguments if you have any kind of points about crypto. Because Neuron will love to point out that you're wrong. So
yeah.
Have a chat with us if you want. And also, I'd say a good place to start reading and learning more is our blog as well, blog.saturn.network. There's a lot of different content. It's not focused solely on Saturn Network. So there's a lot about blockchain development in general, and a lot about crypto trading, discussing different kind of strategies, that sort of thing. And it's focused on a wider range. We discuss different blockchains as well. So that's definitely something to check out.
Yeah, the blog's fantastic. I saw that recently an article on wallets to use. It's very informative, so we'll include that as well. Sam, thank you so much for taking the time today. I'll definitely invite you again, because I think that Saturn and you represent a critical place in the community. I definitely want you and your team asking more questions from the development team at ATC Labs and the rest of the community. It's that give and take. It's that conversation that's going to help everything get better.
Great. Thank you.
Awesome.
Anytime. Just
take care.
Anytime.